Welcome to part 2 of my 2.5 year fertility journey and the 8 most divine and raw lessons I've learned along the way. Now, this is a two-parter episode, so if you're just coming in, I do encourage you to go back and listen to part 1. I kind of lay the groundwork of my story and some of the environment and things that have been going on in my life about this fertility journey. And then I really just wanted to leave you with 8 things that I've learned along the way and to really be able to have this incredible reframes and mindset shifts and also lessons that I've learned on my healing journey and improving my health that have come with it. And just to recap, I went through reasons or the things I've learned 1 through 3 in the last episode, so do go back. I'm going to tell you the other 5 today. But just to give you a really quick, Spark Notes version of it, the first thing that was a huge lesson I learned was that there's so many different layers to your health. And I will be the first to say that I used to think that being healthy meant that you moved your body and then you ate vegetables, and that was it, right? That was like kind of the check mark of whether or not you're a healthy person on this planet. And as I've been going through this journey, I just can see how many layers of health there truly are. That you can go so much deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's not this black and white thing that you're either a healthy person or you're not, but there's so many levels of health and so many different ways of taking care of your body and really, really optimizing it. I mean, you could almost go crazy and OCD on it a little bit. And I do think that some people on this planet do go to those far extremes. But something that's been really helpful for me is also to tie every single health and healing measure that I've been doing, from lymphatic drainage to incorporating more minerals in my life, as something that's going to help my longevity too. Instead of seeing it as something I have to do because I'm not able to get pregnant as easily, in order to see it instead as something I get to do. And that no matter what, this is helping me live a longer life. This is detoxing me. This is helping my skin and my tissues and my organs optimize and my cells be cleaner and clearer. And just thinking of it that way has been really, really, really helpful. So there's a lot of really fun practices and also some really annoying ones. So last time I mentioned that I did a 10-week detox with my husband. One of the things our naturopath practitioner wanted us to do was to drink psyllium husk every day. Now, psyllium husk is something that coagulates. It's a lot of fiber that you have. And so what happens is you mix the powder with water and it turns into like this rock hard jello within 10 seconds or so. And my best friend was over when this happened, and my husband will definitely be able to account for this. There were times when I didn't drink it fast enough, where I made the little mixture, I put the powder in, and then I, swirled it with some water, and I didn't put it down the hatch quick enough, and it turned into this solid. Like, I won't even call it gel, it was solid. And then just, poor me, not wanting to waste it, I would grab a spoon and then just start eating this stuff by the spoonful and just like literally plugging my nose because it has this medicinal smell to it. It was horrible. It was so bad. It was not fun. The sauna is fun. That is not fun. But it's also been in this experiment of like, how healthy could I get, or how optimized could I get, or how much healing could I do, and how much cellular level healing can happen in my body. That's been a really, really cool reframe. And just a really quick follow up to that story, thank God my naturopath recommended something else instead of the psyllium husk for us. Now we're on this paleo fiber that also is a lot of fiber that helps, just clean you out, but isn't this disgusting experience with the psyllium husk? Oh my gosh. But moving on, that was the first, big lesson. Go back to the last episode to, really dive into it. The second biggest one was that how toxic the world is. And I don't like to be a fear monger, so I don't like to drill into this too much. Last time I talked a little bit about water and just the environment that you're around, but think about it. All of our skincare, most of our makeup, all of these brands put all these flatlets and all these hormone disrupting things and parabens, and our cleaning products are horrible, all these things that make you almost sound like you're crazy to be so concerned about, but there's such definitive proof that it's disrupting our bodies. It's for sure disrupting our hormones. Sperm counts are getting lower and lower, and that it is also not good for our cancer risks, our heart attack risk, our dementia risk, and all this kind of stuff too. So it's been nice. Like, at first I found it annoying that like, oh, I have to buy different beauty products and I have to find ones that are all natural and they don't work as well. And then now it's also been like a really good blessing in disguise to like, how clean can I really live? And there's a whole arm to it that you could go dive deep into such a deep hole with, because if you think about it, even your clothes, like, are you wearing plastic on your clothes? A lot of our clothes are made out of polyester or spandex, which are just refined oil, right? And they're made with plastics and stuff like that. Are you actually wearing organic cotton? Are you wearing, things like wool and cashmere, like natural fibers, and that's a whole that's like a whole other ballgame to like clean out your closet and actually start shopping that way. You know what I mean? It's a whole different lifestyle change. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but it's just a whole other layer. Or even the things that your house is made out of, for example. So you guys have heard probably of like flame retardants that come on a new couch or a new mattress. But you know, what about the things that your walls plastered with? What about the things on your floor? So for example, the vinyl floors are supposed to be really bad for you. And we don't have vinyl floors in our house here in Orange County, but we used to in San Diego. So oh my God. Like, I don't want to fearmonger, but when you start to realize how toxic this world is and how many layers of your life and categories of your life that you can clean up and or change products about and just detox, because not that you need to detox for a weight loss reason, but just to get rid of these accumulated chemicals in our bodies that are always being pumped in and circulating. It's a lot, but it also can be fun if you think about it in that way, that I'm getting healthier, I'm optimizing, my cellular health is getting better. The third thing that I learned that I talked about in the last episode was really how spiritual this journey has to be. That if, for example, you are trying to have a baby or you're trying to birth a business or any other dream or goal, that if you're just doing it in the logical 3D sense, you're going to feel really alone, you're going to feel really disappointed and really frustrated. And in the last episode, I shared some stories and experiences that I had with communicating with my spirit baby and getting psychic readings about it, and even communicating with my late grandmother, who I believe is up there with my spirit baby right now. Okay, so there's your recap on the 3 lessons from last week's episode, and let's dive into this week's episode of 5 more things that I've learned along this 2.5-year fertility journey. The first that I alluded to last time was how important language is. You know, in our world, when you fall into a subculture, it is really easy to absorb all the belief systems and all of the stories that have been absorbed into that subculture. So there's a whole TTC, you know, trying to conceive subculture. There's a whole subculture around women who are having a hard time doing so. And really quickly, you're going to find in that subculture conversations about being too old, all your eggs are dried up, it's too late, you know, the only solution is a donor egg or IVF, you're infertile, you know, sperm counts are going down, like just this really heavy stuff, this heavy language that makes you feel powerless and that there's literally nothing you can do. And I want to say that a lot of fertility doctors are changing that conversation, but there's still a lot of old school ones who will be really point blank with you and say, well, you are too old and you're trying too late and your eggs are already bad, even when you're just like 30 something, right? And what I have had to do on my journey is not listen to any of that. And I have found out the top, most pioneering specialists in the world who speak about it completely differently, who truly believe that a woman is fertile until she hits menopause. That if she still has eggs, that the eggs can be fertilized and make a healthy baby. Women who believe that there's so much, and practitioners and men too, right? But people, practitioners, health specialists that believe that there's so much you can do to optimize your natural fertility before you're just deemed infertile. And unexplained fertility doesn't truly exist, that there's truly always a root core reason. We just don't do enough testing to ever figure that out. And I will completely agree with that, because when I went the conventional route with my, you know, my insurance, my medical providers, they barely tested me for anything. And now that I'm working with a naturopath and a naturopathic doctor and practitioner, fertility specialist, we test everything, right? And all the things that I came out with, all the shining colors and all the great, you know, all the test results were great on the conventional side. My naturopath doctor is like, actually, we could optimize that. And actually, we could refine that. And actually, this could be improved. And actually, we could do this. And maybe you should supplement here. So it's really, really interesting to see that huge perspective shift. But it's also the language that we use. You know, there are now studies that are showing that things like, you know, if you're in this fertility world, you know, FSH is a number you don't want too high because it means that you're going into menopause, and AMH is a number that you don't want too low because it means you don't have enough eggs left. And there's even studies that are proving that those numbers do not have necessarily any bearing on any one cycle that you're having trying to have a baby. They're just showing you where the future trend is going, and that it is not defining you, right? It is not who you are. That people with low AMH get pregnant all the time. People with high FSH can get pregnant. It is not defining that necessarily quality of the egg in that one cycle. And that is really, really great to have. So if you're on this journey as well and you're working with doctors who make you feel like crap, if you're making doctors that make you feel like you're just a number, that you're defined by these different hormone levels or whatnot, you need to change doctors, or you need to find other support specialists that can help you that speak in different language. And this has been really, really impactful for me because I never have used the word infertile. One, I don't even know if that's true. It's, two parties at this thing right now, and we do have some more male factors as well going on. And also, it is not something I'm going to adopt, because if I start calling myself infertile or have infertility issues or whatnot, what do you think I'm telling my cells? What do you think I'm telling my cells of what's going to happen? And they're almost programmed into their identity to not respond that way. And trust me, that's been very, very hard. But speaking out, the type of practitioners, the type of books, the type of courses and programs that really align with my mindset and my values from the personal development world and from the coaching world, of really reframing things and also looking for the positive evidence, not the negative evidence, that has been everything for me. And watching out with what kind of language you use. Because what's often happens is that even though we can be really good about this with specific circles we're in, once we enter a new subculture, it's really easy to just fall into that dominant subculture way of speaking. And you can be all rah over here in your business, but then you go into the fertility world, right? And it's all doom and gloom because of the language that's used. And so that's been something that I've really had to be careful around and make sure I surround myself with the right people using the right language and describing it in a solution-oriented way, not in a problem-specific way. And just having so much hope that, when every cycle, it's like a 20% chance that you could get pregnant in a normal, couple, right, that isn't experiencing any issues, that some things do just time. Some things are just the luck of the draw, I had a really good friend once explain it to me too, that what if you have gotten pregnant before, but because the quality of the DNA being passed between the sperm and the egg wasn't the highest quality, that your body rejected it. And instead of having actually a miscarriage, which I haven't ever had before, that is your body's way of protecting you from going down that path. And it really made me appreciate even my body, of saying like, wow, what a beautiful spin, what a different way of looking at things, because trust me, there have been even times when I'm like, oh my God, at least these people are at least getting pregnant, right? But I'm not. Like, it's so easy to go down the negative spiral and the negative language. So that, as tip number 4, the lesson number 4 that I've learned about being really careful with what language you use and who you're surrounding yourself with, has been super vital for me. The next is how impactful our subconscious is. Now, as being someone who has been very thoroughly trained in the subconscious mind, this isn't news to me how important our subconscious mind is. And I wish that I had like a quicker, like I could just wave a magic wand and my subconscious would just be so primed and ready to get pregnant. But I know how many layers deep this goes. And I know that there's a lot of stories I'm carrying and a lot of things I have inherited from my family that might make subconscious blocks within me. And our subconscious mind, if you find that you're doing everything right on paper, and this can come with any problem that you're going through in your life, if you find that you're going through everything right on paper, and it's like, this should be working, but it's not, it's often coming down then to your subconscious. And there's probably some kind of subconscious and energetic block. And I will be okay to say, even though this is something I know a lot about and I know how to change the subconscious mind, and something we teach in the 5X certification program, I'm okay with saying I know that there's so many deeper blocks that have yet to be uncovered and healed in me. And it's been so interesting with the kind of subconscious practitioners that I've also worked with around this area. They will know that I'm super solid in my business, that I feel like a badass in my career, and then they'll know that I have some murkier feelings about having a baby, and they can just sense it, which I think is just so spot on. And I'll be really honest about that. So, growing up, I was the baby of the family. I didn't have younger brothers or sisters. I had older ones. And one, that never gave me the experience of having someone younger to take care of. And two, I also didn't necessarily like being a child. And I really, the person I am today, the leader, the impact maker, the author, it's almost like I always knew I was meant to be that person. And being infantilized or treated like a child or having no control was really hard for me to deal with when I was younger. And so there's parts of me that probably have subconscious blocks that, the desire to have babies wasn't ever something that was really, really implanted in me from a young age. I wasn't that type of like young girl to just wish about having babies. I wished to travel and to see the world and have an incredible career. And two, I also had this feeling that being a child is really uncomfortable and not a pleasant experience, whether or not it has comes with big trauma or not. It's just you don't have that locus of control that really makes us feel free at the end of the day. And that there's parts of me that probably don't even want to go back there and repeat that. So I know there's a lot there. And that's something that I'm working with various coaches and practitioners on to uncover and heal and up level. But there's also this ancestral stuff that comes with my journey where my mom had trouble getting pregnant as well. And she had 3 kids. So obviously she did get pregnant and have children. And it's a success story at the end of the day. But each child took a few years, I believe, or a few months or a few years. I think I took the most long because she was 40, 41 when she had me. So supposedly they were trying for years to have me. And that she had to get on hormones for each child to actually conceive. And my mom told me that. Growing up, that's what I heard over and over and over again. So it's almost as if this story of having trouble to have children, trouble to conceive, was imprinted upon me, imprinted on my subconscious. And even before we tried for the first time, the very first month we ever tried, you don't know, you could get pregnant that first month. There was already this reframe in the back of my mind that this is going to be hard, that this isn't going to work out very easily. So thanks, Mom. But obviously, that was her truth. And then she was trying to protect me from that and tell me that story and be real with me about her experience, But obviously, look what that does, what that can imprint upon you. But as I go deeper into it, I've learned even more interesting things. For example, my mother and my father were both conceived in wartime. My mom was conceived right after the war. So I'm sure, for a country that was completely blown up and destabilized by Nazi Germany, that is the environment that she was in the womb. And there's this saying, it's not really a saying, it's a truth, it's a scientific fact, that when your mom is conceived, all the eggs that she'll ever have are also conceived at that moment, or as she's growing in the womb. So the egg that you come from has been in existence since the conception date of your parent, of your mom. So technically, me as an egg has been around since 1946, because that's when my mother she was born in 46, so she was conceived in 45. So I have been around in some shape or form since 45, and I've also absorbed some of those experiences of the trauma of, living in a war-torn country right after Nazi Germany impaled everything, and then Stalin takes over, and everything's blown up, and there's no food, and there's no water, and all your sense of safety and security in your house, and everything's gone. All of that was obviously my mom's experience in the womb, but even technically mine, if you count my experience as being an egg in the womb. On top of that, when my mother was born, my grandmother, I didn't get to meet her. She's my maternal grandmother, so not my paternal grandmother that raised me, but my maternal grandmother. She had a heart attack when my mom was born. Okay, my mom thought for some reason that wasn't a very big deal, and that, it's just the times, the medical time of the environment, like stuff like that just happened back then, and or nothing like that would ever happen today, that we're so much more advanced today. But I'm like shocked when I hear that. Like, of course I have this instinctual ancestral fear in my body if that is my mom's story. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. And I know that that's stuff I'm unpacking, and I've worked with different subconscious healers around it. And I find it at the same time interesting, which is a good thing, because that way I'm interested to look into it. I'm interested to heal. I'm interested to know that, my subconscious mind is so set up for success in my business and my career and my personal development, but there's this weakness. There's this weak area where I do have a lot of doubt and I do have a lot of fear. In addition to working with, practitioners and specialists in this area, I've also done a lot of hypnosis in this area, a lot of subliminals. I'm not like religious about it where it happened every night, but I do have these incredible hypnosises that I listen to, because I know at the end of the day, all the health stuff and all of the different changes that I'm doing in the physical world are only some part of the equation. That the other part of the equation, and I don't know what the exact split is, the other part of the equation might be something to do with the subconscious mind and some fear that it's holding on to because of these experiences. So I'm very open to that. I'm open to that, and I'm exploring it, and I hope this story will just give you some kind of faith and hope that if something that you really want in your life hasn't manifested yet, that there might be something underneath that, some kind of subconscious block that you might not yet be aware of, that would be really, really interesting and valuable to uncover and to heal. So the next lesson that I've learned, we are on number 6, is my love life. And this is an interesting one because when you're trying to conceive, sex becomes something that is on a schedule and it has to happen at this certain time, and how do you navigate this situation with your partner, and if it isn't going as easily, how do you not tear apart and actually lose connection and lose kind of devotion with each other because of this struggle? And I will be very honest to say it hasn't been easy. And we've definitely gone through our, ups and downs through this. And there were times when it was getting harder than it is now. And, we were maybe feeling more perfunctory, more like we were just playing a role, that we had to just do this job. We were feeling maybe more disconnected at this being harder and not being sure what was going to happen. But I have to say that my love life and relationship now, like to this point, has only improved and gotten better because of this journey that we're going through. First of all, our sex life got a lot better. And that didn't happen right away because at first it was this thing where, okay, it's my ovulation day, we have to, have sex today. It started becoming this perfunctory role that we had to play, and some of the sizzle and some of the seduction kind of fell out. And that couldn't stay around, right? And I had to get really creative. We both got really creative about what brings us pleasure. What do we love? How are we obsessed with each other? How can we make this such an enjoyable experience? Because when you're trying for 2.5 years, that is a lot of regular sex that you're having, right? And obviously, in most healthy relationships, we also want to maintain that level of intimacy. And so, looking at my love life and really falling in love again with my husband and falling in love with our intimacy and finding so much joy, and there's been so much creativity that we've had to have in the bedroom that's been amazing, like groundbreaking, in a way that has brought us so much closer together, that I'm really, really honored actually that we've gone through it the way we've gone through it, and I didn't get pregnant the very first month, because it's brought us so much closer together. It's also brought us closer not just in the bedroom, but it's also brought us closer in the team that we are, because it's so easy to blame one party, like, okay, well, if you're infertile, then it's the woman's fault, or maybe it's the man's fault if it's male factor, and somehow make it seem like they are stopping you from living out your dream life. And I think we've really both come together in a way to believe that we're both in this, and no matter what the split is, there's probably a part of my body and a part of his body that isn't performing to the best ability to be able to get pregnant, and that we share the responsibility for it, but that also we love each other no matter what. And that no matter what happens, that one person isn't disappointing the other person at the end of the day, and that our relationship is rock solid whether or not we have a child or not. And we're both in really big faith that we will. And I was telling you in the last episode how I spoke with a spiritual medium who was able to talk to my spirit baby, and she had such a deep relationship with my husband. Like, she has been with my husband before in a lifetime and has such a deep love for him and cannot wait for him to be her dad. And I just melted. I just melted at that. Like, I know one of my husband's purposes on this planet is to be a dad. I know that so deeply. And that even sometimes carries me through the hard times more so than my role as a mom. So that's been really, really, really special. The next thing I've learned, number 7 on the list, is that taking care of yourself is a sacred honor and a radical luxury that should be afforded to everybody. That really respecting and taking care of yourself. And this starts out even when we reevaluate our relationships with alcohol. Because at the fundamental level, when we're drinking a poison that is hurting our body, hurting our minds, hurting our intuition, hurting our cells, I mean, it's crazy, but when cells are in a petri dish and alcohol is introduced, there have been sound specialists that have been able to ascertain that the cells are actually crying and shrieking out from that introduction of alcohol. And if we just think that that's what we're doing to our body every single time we drink, we are literally ingesting a poison that is hurting our body on a cellular level. The fundamental respect and self-worth it takes to say, no, I'm going to fully take care of myself. I'm going to love and honor myself, is radical in our culture. It really is radical. And if you've already taken a break from alcohol or you're already alcohol free, you know how radical that is. It's this expression of self-love and self-worth that almost makes you feel delusional that you're even taking, because we grow up in a world that tells us to disrespect our body and disrespect our health and disrespect how much worthiness that we deserve to take care of ourselves. And I think, especially as women, this idea of taking care of ourselves can be so lost because it's so drilled into us to take care of everybody else instead. Take care of the children, taking care of your partner, taking care of your friends, your family, your whatever, your coworkers, that we lose the fundamental right and the fundamental sense that I am the most important vessel I could possibly take care of. And to even act like that can sometimes seem too brash and too bold. And so, once you remove alcohol from the picture, that is one of the most fundamental ways that you can do that, to fundamentally say, I am worthy of being taken care of. I'm worthy of honoring. I'm worthy of this level of respect. But as you go deeper and deeper into this healing journey that I've been on my fertility journey, it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. There's certain things that I have gotten used to paying for myself that I would have never paid for before. And I'll tell you that it took a lot of money mindset work, because I did a lot of money mindset work on expenses that are related to my business or my personal development. And those weren't okay either. I have podcast episodes where I show you the journey and the before and after, where even a $20 website got me in a frazzle. But I shared you a few episodes about how I've learned to invest in myself, and I've learned to invest in my business, and I've learned to invest in my personal development and going to conferences and masterminds and working with coaches, and how there's always a positive ROI for my business and my growth and my development. And it's a business write-off, right? So why wouldn't I do it? But this whole other level of investing into my healing was like a different lane for me, because all of a sudden, I don't know if this impacts my business ROI. It probably does, right? The healthier you become, the more vibrant and energetic, right? But it's not as connected, at least not in the logical mind. And then it's not a business write-off anymore, right? Spending money on my fertility isn't something I can write off on my business. And so I had to really switch this money mindset, who was like, I don't want to shell out for all these supplements. Like when we were doing our 10-week detox, and even in the maintenance level right now, we were spending $1,000 a month on supplements. Now, I'm going to be the first to tell you that I have bought a supplement in the past. I had one or two of them, and I forgot to take them, and they got dusty and old, and they started smelling, and I just had to throw them away. So even putting my credit card information to buy the first month of supplements that cost $1,000 was so triggering to me, was so like uncomfortable. What if I don't use them? What if they smell? What if they go bad? What if I don't want them? And I just wasted $1,000 on these supplements. It was like a lot of those things came up for me. A lot of the things that we've invested in for our health and healing. Buying the sauna was a little easier because I really enjoy the idea of having a sauna and being that type of person that uses a sauna. But there's so many other things. We've done a couple IUI cycles that are pretty pricey. We've done a few tests that are really, really pricey. And you're at the end of the day, you're like, oh my gosh, am I going to spend the $2,000, $3,000, or $4,000 to do these tests when you might not even get an answer at the end of the day of something that you need to do, or yes, maybe this isn't optimized very well, but the answer isn't really clear about what you're supposed to do to fix it. And so it's kind of opened up this whole Pandora's box for me of my worthiness, of how worthy I am to take care of myself and to honor my health and my self-worth. And it's obviously something I'm still working through, but yes, the answer is yes. And it's shifted a lot of the way I see things, like it's so much easier for me now to invest in organic food, for example, and to just not overthink those kinds of things, to just be like, this is the standard, this is the quality that I deserve, and I'm not going to finagle on this. I'm not going to talk to myself about, oh yeah, but it's cheaper to do this, or it's cheaper to do that, or, you don't deserve this. If you think about it, when you go alcohol free, you will be saving upwards of $3,000 to $7,000 a year. You're allowed to spend some of that money on taking care of yourself, on having the pleasurable experiences, even something like massages. So when we moved here, and also in San Diego when we were still trying, I had a massage membership where I was able to get a massage every single month and a facial or something like that. And that from this like immigrant Polish, frugal person that grew up in this country, was a huge shift to be like, I don't just get a massage once a year as this like irregular, unique thing. Like I actually do this on the regular. Like that was a whole shift in identity. Things like that. My husband sees a chiropractor. I was doing acupuncture for a while. It's just a lot of different things that we've done that do add up, right? Whether it's like the physical money that you're spending on it, but also this feeling of Am I wasting my time? Am I really worthy of this? Is this going to work? You know, do I even deserve to take care of myself in such a fundamental way? And it's just really taught me, yes. Like, there's literally no other investment as important as your body and your health. And there's this saying, I know Tony Robbins says it a lot. I'm not sure if you got it from somewhere else, but when you're healthy, you have 1,000 dreams. But when you're not healthy, you have one dream, and that's to become healthy again. And even though, you know, this has been kind of this new territory for me to like really feel and soak up, I'm deserving of taking care of myself, I'm deserving of honoring my body, it's definitely been this lesson. And I have shifted so much of what I believe is a worthy spend or a worthy investment of my time and energy now. And a lot of things have fallen away too, which is really interesting. So I'm actually going to go into the next thing that I've learned. And the last one is really how I see food. And this kind of goes back to the lesson number one about how there's all these levels of healing, but it's also really changed how I invest in food and what I'm willing to buy now. But also, there's so much other stuff that I'm not willing to buy, but that I also just don't like anymore. And I will be honest with you again, in my late 20s and even early 30s, if I ate vegetables, if I ate like 5 servings of vegetables, I didn't think it was any problem whatsoever to be snacking on things like pretzels and goldfish and chips every night, even things like top ramen. Now, no judgment out there, right? This isn't like a nutrition podcast or anything like that, but obviously those things are not good for you to be consuming on a daily or near daily basis. And there's just a few other things like that where, yeah, sure, it wasn't going to Jack in the Box or anything to get food, but even a few years ago, having things like Hot Pockets in my freezer was normal, because what if there's that one day that you don't feel like cooking and, you know, it's late and you just pop a Hot Pocket in the freezer? It's almost as if like my perception of food has changed so much that I almost don't even want to stomach those things. And those things that used to be really alluring to me, especially because I grew up with all that stuff off limits, like any kind of junk food, processed food, you know, eating out, all that kind of stuff. All of it was off limits to me. So as a college age student in my 20s, all of it was so glorified and amazing, and I love that taste of that stuff. And I knew it wasn't good for you per se, but I still enjoyed it. Now I don't enjoy it. And that's been such a huge shift. And when you get so granular into your food and where it comes from, you know, organic versus conventional, and then like if you're eating plant or meat-based proteins, like what is that animal eating? Are they eating the like pesticide sprayed grains and corn, or are they more pasture raised or grass fed? And then it's so interesting how I shop now. I really stick to the aisles. You know how they say like stick to the produce section and stick to the protein and seafood section, and everything in the middle is just junk? I actually do that. And I'm so proud of myself, because there was always a part of me that's like, yeah, but let's just dip in there to get a snack or something, or let's get in there to get a treat. And it's just not as alluring to me anymore. And this isn't to say that I've never eaten a treat and I don't ever have a dessert, or I don't ever have something that isn't the best for you, but the desire level has really, really changed. And I find that so interesting, because the same thing obviously happened with alcohol. I didn't just stop drinking from willpower and then continue wanting to drink, but just not allow myself to have it. And I think that's what we do with food so often. We make a certain food off limits, but we love it and we want it. And if we had the opportunity to eat it, you know, we would go for it, or the permission to eat it. And it's such a different reframe when you're like, how do I actually remove the desire for it? Which was really clear for me what I did with my relationship with alcohol, which is I now teach to other people and help other people through, but wasn't always as clear to me with food and different food items that I would love. You know, I wouldn't get to a point where maybe I'd have Doritos at home, but if I went to a house party and they had a bowl of Doritos, I'm going to have some, right? Where now it's like I actually a little bit more disgusted with stuff like that. And that's been really, really cool to see. And I don't know if it's because I've read so many books about like health and food and stuff like that, or if the vision that I have, this intention I have of having just like a clear cellular health and just knowing how gross that stuff is for you. And, you know, even sometimes the things that I enjoyed eating out, I don't enjoy as anymore. I'm like kind of steering away from any flour-based products, not because I'm gluten-free necessarily or believe that gluten is the worst devil for you, but that just how refined all that stuff can be, and that it's most of the most processed stuff that we could be eating, you know, on a regular basis. So that has really changed to be eating just much healthier carbs, really clean sources of protein, and a lot of vegetables. And one of the things that we had to do on our 5-10 week detox was to eat, I think it was half a pound of cruciferous vegetables a day, which was a lot. It's a lot. You know, it's like way more than you would have aside for dinner, and just incorporating that in. And now there's this like part of me that craves it. I love cauliflower. Broccoli is probably the one that is the hardest for me, but I still really do enjoy eating it. It's just not my favorite of the family. But like cauliflower, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, like now I almost feel like if I have a meal that's just, you know, I don't know, like peas and salad or something, peas and lettuce, for example. I don't know, random random meal, but I'm missing that cruciferous. Like I'm craving that cruciferous part of it. So it's really, really interesting from someone who just didn't think that these desires for different food groups would go away, has. And I have to tell you too that reading labels has really changed my life because, you know, when you're trying to get healthier, most things will tell you read labels and don't buy stuff with having all these multiple ingredients. But if you don't really know what those ingredients are doing to you, it almost doesn't seem so bad because you're like, well, I have to get tortillas and I have to get, you know, something I can pop in the microwave at least once a week and I have to get, you know, a cracker or something like that. But now to like read a label and I know exactly what to look out for, like especially the seed oils, like cottonseed oil is one of those horrible things that's like an industrial product that they put in food. Now, you know, most of the time when I shop at Trader Joe's because that's the nearest store to us because I just love it. You know, I only shop for the things that don't really have labels. They're on the sides of the market and I kind of skip through the rest. But when I am in a store that has some of these things more like, and I do look at the labels, I'm like, nope, that sounded good, but nope, you know, it has this in it or that in it. And it's actually worked. It's actually worked, which is really, really cool. Whether it's like the high fructose corn syrup or just the things that you know to look out for. And again, maybe other people have like gotten this a long time ago, but I always knew this in theory, but still it didn't work for me. It still was like, yeah, but that's so yummy, I'm gonna get it anyway. You know what I mean? And now I'm actually disgusted by it. I'm actually like turned off by eating those kind of foods. And again, not to say I never have a treat or something like that. I do. I definitely have a sweet spot for dessert. But dessert is like, can I eat the like home baked good, the thing that I either make or that high quality dessert shop makes versus those cookies that are hanging out at Ralph's that are filled with cottonseed oil and all these industrial chemicals that don't deserve to be in any cookie, any shape or form. Like, why are they putting that stuff in there? So, that is a huge, huge lesson. And it's also coming back to the lesson before that of just how I've learned to honor my body and how so many things can shift in your appetite and the way that you look at food and the way you look at taking care of yourself and just the toxins that are out there and doing your best to avoid them. So I will close it out. This is a pretty long episode so far. Again, if you haven't listened to episode part 1 of this series, do go back. I go deeper into the story of how we've been trying to conceive over the last 2.5 years. And I'm curious if anything just stands out for you as a lesson that you want to take and apply to your life. I think that taking care of yourself is one of the most fundamental things I can leave you, that it is just so important and you're worthy of it. And even if it costs a little bit more money, the thing is that now that we're buying maybe the more organic produce and the more, you know, grass-fed this and that kind of eggs and everything's a little bit more expensive and pricier, we're skipping out on all that junk that we also would have bought at a different time. And that's not even going on the grocery bill. Or we're eating at higher quality restaurants, or, you know, just these different changes that you can make that you're worthy of and you're worthy of honoring. It's also the honoring of the time too. You know, it takes time, for example, to dry brush my skin. It takes time to go into my sauna. It takes time to do some red light therapy or some castor oil. It takes time to go on a walk and get some morning sunshine. Like, all of these things take time. And so it's so easy to tell yourself, you have, you know, you have more important things to do. Your health is like at the bottom of the list. And I can be really quick to even want to just jump into my business right away. But to be able to have these restorative times where you're fundamentally taking care of you, it's taught me a lot about self-worth and self-love. A lot. And I really appreciate this journey for that reason. And we'll see what happens. And I'm pretty sure that divine timing is at play for me, and that things are going to work out the most beautiful, magical way that they were meant to. And that all the worry and all the doubt and all the negativity and all the frustration, I could just easily avoid. I could just easily put that on the side and just continue to have this level of faith and this level of belief and this level of knowing and just enjoy my freaking life. Get as healthy as I can and really enjoy and soak up all the moments that I have right now. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for the love that you shared from last week's episode too. It really made my day hearing from you. And I hope these episodes have lifted you up as well.